Okay, it's all right. The MNLF and the MILF are two different groups, each alleging to represent the Bangsamoro people in Mindanao. Which of the two truly represents the Bangsamoro of Mindanao?
MNLF and MILF?
Yes, sir.
The MNLF, and I hope we all read the history of this, came out in the open after the so-called Jabida affair, vintage maybe 1969, which was the massacre of Muslim, or I think Tausug, young people who had volunteered for secret training under the armed forces of the Philippines during time of President Marcos. And it was Professor Nurmiswari who led in the continuous protests against that so-called Javida massacre. And eventually, he organized the Moro National Liberation Front. Of course, there are antecedents to the MNLF, like the MIM, Mindanao Independence Movement, led by, at that time, Datu Ugtug Matalam of Cotabato, the undivided Cotabato, who was very powerful in his own right, but politically even more influential, being the brother-in-law of the late Senator Pendatun. And then even before that, of course, were the agrupations that resisted Spanish domination and the arrival of the Americans, and never really ever got integrated into the majority body politic, even after Philippine independence. And so, back to the question, who really represents, the MN or the MI? Well, if we look at the definition put out by the academic experts, it's neither here nor there. Because the so-called Moros include the Visayan Moros who migrated from Panay and Cebu, and the Ilocano Moros who migrated from northern Luzon, and the Chinese Mestizo Moros who were born there in Mindanao, but not of Muslim parentage. And so this concept of if you are not MNLF, you are no good, or if you are not MILF, you are no good. I think we should stop approaching the problem in that manner and talk about the one big Bangsamoro family, which has many strands, but which is part of the bigger Filipino family. It's just like in the family, you know, you acquire in-laws, the children come, then the grandchildren after that, and some of them are no longer carrying your original family name. They are no longer Ramoses, but they are Bilorias. They are Romans. They are something, but they all have each other's genes in various proportions. Now, I think what should define what is Philippines is the entire homeland. What is a Filipino? Well, those that are in this entire homeland called the Republic of the Philippines, which is 7,107 islands during high tide, and some more during low tide. In other words, it's not a zero-sum game, as we say. You know, believe me, there's a new kind of arithmetic that is working out there. in the global economy of the 21st century. It is 1 plus 1 is not equal to 2 anymore. Believe me, my grade in the civil engineering board exam in mathematics was 99.0%. Almost 100. But I made one erasure like that. Anyway, 1 plus 1 is now equal to 3 or 5 or 11, as the Ilocanos best say it. The Indians say 1 plus 1 is equal to 11 because that is digital, exponential. 1 plus 1 is equal to 11 according to the Ilocanos because that is digital. But, you know, if we are going to stick to these rigid definitions, who is better, who represents, what is the color of the real citizen or the real representative, you know, the world has moved so fast and is still moving so fast that we cannot afford anymore to make these distinctions. But, you know, in many parts of the Philippines, and sometimes in the entire Philippines, because of our kind of politics, 1 plus 1 becomes 0, or minus 5, or minus 11 even in some parts. And so let's get smart. Why did we drop down from number 77 in the UN Human Development Index in the year 2000 to the year 2007, for which there are now available reports? We fell down from number 77 out of 177, and Sierra Leone was the last there. We fell down from number 77 in the year 2000 to number 90 in the year 2007. And that has to do with health, housing, water, per capita income, human rights, condition of peace or absence of it, environment, clean air, all sorts of things. But shouldn't we be improving beyond number 77 out of 192 now? Because 77 is already above the median line, above 50%. Number 90, where we are now, you are just at the median line. You are 1/2 of 177, even below, in fact. Ganun ba tayo? Is that our ambition to remain there? Do we like to, who are our neighbors? You know who is number 89? Western Samoa. Yung mga vision natin, is that our league? No. We are in the league of the small Pacific Islands. When we are 90 million. Over there, there are 100,000. And 60% of them are Filipino overseas workers. Is that how proud we are? Is that as far as our ambition goes, to be number 90? No. We should have improved from number 77. Fortunately, in another kind of measurement, and I'm glad Ambassador Bautista stays here, we are improving in the competition called global competitiveness. We are improving. But, you know, the competitiveness is measured in two parts. How is the private sector doing? How is government doing? It is because of the improvement in the private sector that the Philippine Competitiveness Index has gone up in the last 2 years. And also to the task force under him. Are you in government? No, it's not. It's private sector. Former government. Former Ramos cabinet. Okay, one more? No
We
more.
have just time for one last quick question from inside the auditorium. Do we have a volunteer? Yes, yes, ma'am. One very brief and quick question, please.
Remy Riken.
Pinatiro yun. Dito nga na.
Pasok. Executive Director.
Okay. Upo ka dyan, upo ka dyan. Ito nga pala eh. Patops.
I just want to put on record your support to the National Commission on the Role of Filipino Women. And
NCRFW.
yes. And the approval of our 30-year plan under your administration.
Still-
and I
still
think that's
there.
why we have high gender, MDG on gender equality.
That's part of the MDG.
Yes.
And we are already passing the minimum standards.
Yes. And when it comes to gender, I think we're high. Thank
That's
you.
what I'm saying, but we are failing in some marks.
Yes.
Just like in the UP.
Yeah.
No, but really, on gender equality, we got our inputs from the NCRFW, National Commission on the Role of Filipino Women. And this was, let's say, accelerated by the new law